Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Well, retired Army Colonel Carl Nell is back in the UFO news again. He has written an excellent new paper where he is calling for a controlled UAP disclosure, and he wants it to start immediately. And we're going to get into that later on in this episode. First, though, I want to give a little update on the Las Vegas alien incident. There was something that I think could be significant, and I'm sure there will be more talk about this in upcoming episodes. However, let's start with what happened yesterday. Twitter X user Darren King, also known as Exo-Academian, wrote this. He says, "During a dinner conversation here in Denver, the head of MUFON Colorado told me that his forensic photo analysis of the Las Vegas backyard NHI incident suggested the beings in the footage are legitimately there, with no sign of image doctoring." Now, I think that is great. It's nice to see that MUFON is now on board with this, apparently, at least one of them. Now, I'm going to reach out to MUFON and see if there's any more I can get from them, maybe more comments on this as the week goes on. We'll see. But I think this was great news. I actually wrote back. I said, "Welcome to the party, MUFON. Yeah, they're really there, just as we've been reporting for 13 months. And then I had provided a link to the 2-year anniversary video podcast that I recently produced. And yeah. And I thought this was interesting too. Jason Wild, who, if you're not following him on X, this guy has a lot of very, very interesting stories and takes on the whole phenomenon. And he wrote this. He says, "I've heard the same consensus, but for most, it's still too wacky to be believable for them. I could literally introduce the real Jesus to my mom, and she would think he was a fake." And I wrote back to him saying, "I think that's what is happening in many cases, Jason. People just can't believe it's real, even many who are hollering for truth. You show it to them and something snaps. A mental blockade pops up that prevents them from absorbing the evidence." Yes, I think that I've talked about that before on the show. I think that for some people, they just not ready to accept this, and it's just too much for them, and they shut down, and they get angry about being even shown it or even discussed. They don't even want to hear about it. And anyway, there's still, even with regard to this, there's still a lot of people running around there trying to debunk it without any sort of evidence, or trying to basically dismiss it. They're not even debunking it. It's a dismissal all the time. They don't provide any evidence or anything. I mean, as everyone knows, this is a done deal. This shows that there's something here. There's no question about it. And I think it's fantastic that now you have the head of MUFON Colorado saying that there's something there too, that it's legitimate. And so I think that is very interesting, and most certainly a good step forward. Okay, I want to get into this Carl Nell paper that he just wrote. Actually, I'll leave the link for this. It's the Sol Foundation. That's where it was posted. And let's get into this. Let's see here. He says here, the title of this is "The UFO Enigma, a Call for United States Government Disclosure." And we're not going to read the whole thing. This is very lengthy, but I just want to go through some of it, and we'll talk about it as we go through it. Anyway, you see, it's over 20 pages long. So we're just going to go through some parts of it, and then we'll stop here and there to talk about what he's saying here. Anyway, he has an executive summary, and this is interesting. He writes, "Unidentified flying objects, now referred to as unidentified anomalous phenomena by the Department of Defense, are almost perennially vexing, with their origins still unknown and the names given to them, from Foo Fighters during World War II to slow walkers, fast walkers, and unidentified drones today, too varied to clarify their nature. Moreover, despite undertaking many study efforts on the objects from the immediate post-war period forward, the United States government has provided no definitive public resolution to the UFO enigma. In a display of courageous leadership, Senator Mike Rounds and former Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer sought in 2024 to address this issue by reintroducing their UAP Disclosure Act, which was passed in the previous year's legislative session only after being gutted of its most significant provisions. Modeled after the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, the reintroduced Disclosure Act would have established proper accountability and oversight over government activities concerning the phenomena by elected officials in both the executive and legislative branches. Unfortunately, the legislation once again failed to pass. This paper seeks to definitively articulate the rationale for its reintroduction for a third and final time in 2025, and more importantly, the establishment through its passage by executive order of its most crucial provisions, a publicly accountable UFO control group and eminent domain over technologies of unknown, aka non-human origin. So far, I mean, this is very, very well worded, and it's unfortunate. I just want to stop there. It's unfortunate that didn't pass. It got gutted the first time. It didn't even. They didn't vote on it the second time last year, and now, so we're talking about it again. Hopefully for this year, and we'll see if a third time's the charm. Hopefully, it will be. And maybe the letters or papers like this from Carl Nell will help. Cause Congress to finally do something with this. The UAP Disclosure Act would create an independent review board of 9 distinguished citizens at the uppermost tiers of their professions to serve as that control group. Let me just stop there again. He's talking about control group, establishing a control group. Unfortunately, as we all suspect, there's already a control group working in the shadows behind the scenes that's keeping all this stuff secret. So we need to get a new control group, according to Carl Nell, one where we know who's on the board. Anyway, nominated by the president and confirmed by the Senate, the board would have the responsibility of centralizing and assessing all extant government information concerning UFOs with the intent of creating public transparency, assessing the defense and national security issues raised by the objects, and setting the agenda for international cooperation. Accorded authority to adjudicate the release of or postponement of all records relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena, the Disclosure Act directs the board to develop a formal campaign plan for the president containing precise requirements for periodic review, downgrading, and declassification of UAP records and material. This benchmark-driven controlled disclosure plan, which specifies the exact time and specific occurrences following which each postponed item may be appropriately disclosed, would supersede all prior classification standards previously deemed applicable to such records. Beyond executing this plan, the review board would also be ideally suited to recommend national policy addressing whole-of-government issues raised by the reality of UFOs, the need for federally funded scientific research on the subject, and proposals for meeting this global challenge through diplomatic and/or economic cooperation with allies. Let me just stop here again. Again, it's really nice to have a guy like this on your side. It really is. You wouldn't want him on the other side, I can tell you that. Anyway, of equal importance, the UAP Disclosure Act also addresses recent whistleblower testimony that recovered technology and materials of non-human origin were transferred by the government to certain private aerospace companies, perhaps to avoid accountability to elected officials. Yeah, I'm going to stop there again. That is a big problem. I think that's what's happening. And, I think that is one of the problems why you're never going to get anything through FOIA on this. I think all the records, all the pertinent records with regard to crash retrievals, reverse engineering, all that stuff, they're not held by the government. They're held by some private corporation. That's how they're getting away with this, apparently. Okay, where was I here? The Act reverses this decision, which possibly violated federal acquisition regulations, by directing the executive branch to invoke eminent domain over any and all technology and materials that incorporate science and technology that lack prosaic attribution or known means of human manufacture. This action would ensure that any recovered materials would be under the control of the president, while also mitigating the risks they have posed to national security from being in industry hands, ensuring their integrated and systemic study, engendering public transparency, and fostering societal advancement through their informed and safe reintroduction into the streams of commerce. And then he has different bullet points here that he goes through. For instance, the first one here, the vexing problem of UFOs, and it talks, gives some history of it, and how they've been, a problem for the United States government, for the military, for all these decades. And then the second thing he talks about here is the UAP Disclosure Act, and he talks about what this would do, all the elements with regard to that. And then he talks about the prior disclosures of the truth failed to gain traction. that he talks about how efforts in the past really led nowhere in the end, never got us anywhere, and that's why it's important that we get somewhere this time. And I think we will. I think we're on our way. I don't think there's any turning this back, despite the hollering from some corners of this issue. Number 4 was he talks about the strategic need for an independent review board. And again, this is too much to sit here and read the entire thing, but I think I'll leave the link here. And I think, if you're interested in this, you should check it out, because it's very, very interesting and makes a lot of sense to me. Then he talks about addressing the technological surprise and societal shock. I mean, okay, now this is the one where, and I'm going to go through this one here, because to me, I think this is important, especially with the stuff that I've been talking about on the show. I mean, there's no doubt about this, folks. I mean, I know the reporting on this it's solid. I know it is. I know that it's right, and I know there's a whole bunch of people that are behind me on this, on the reporting. We have experts who have led the way, like Scott Roeder. I mean, there's no going back. Despite what anybody else you hear from other people out there, they don't believe it. That's just crazy, this and that. It's over. It's already out there in the public. I think that there's an effort to suppress it, and there's nothing I could do about that, and maybe it will continue to be suppressed until nobody will really know about that case. Until after the government finally comes clean, for all we know. Maybe the rest of the world won't be alerted to that issue. I mean, it would cause problems. I mean, you have to think about this. People see this and they're going to be wondering, so this could happen in my backyard? Yeah, it could happen. I mean, the chances are probably, infinitesimal, but still, it's something that could happen. But anyway, let's go through this. He says, availing themselves of the JFK legislation as the model for the UAP Disclosure Act was a wise decision by its sponsors, since the JFK and UAP records problems share key similarities, and the broad authorities inherent in the former law were already found both legally and constitutionally sufficient to recommend their direct reuse in the latter. Nevertheless, one counter-argument posits that because all JFK assassination records have not yet been discovered and released, the Disclosure Act cannot possibly incorporate all lessons learned from this ongoing effort and is consequently deficient. This is false logic. Unidentified anomalous phenomena are not simply a problem of historical significance, as are the JFK records, since UFOs simultaneously harbor the real possibility of unrecognized present-day technological surprise. Two noteworthy air-to-air engagements reported through official Defense Intelligence Agency channels illustrate this point. In 1976, an American-made Iranian F-4 Phantom aircraft engaged a UFO over Tehran, and in 1980, a Soviet export model Sukhoi Su-22 fighter encountered an unidentified object over La Joya Air Base in Peru. In the first case, Major and later General Parviz Jafari lost electronic fire control and experienced intense heat and light effects as he attempted unsuccessfully to fire his AIM-9 Sidewinder missile, while in the second case, Lieutenant, later Commander Oscar Hurto employed a 30mm cannon via manual fire control to successfully hit his target, albeit with no apparent effect. Mitigating current-day threats analogous to these argues for urgent action and the immediate passage of the Disclosure Act, as the legislation grants the review board access not only to documents but also to materials recovered. Government-supported scientific research would also enlighten the public about civilian incidents that afford a window into the broader scope of the phenomena, beyond exclusively military concerns. Another pivotal difference between the JFK and UAP Acts is the requirement for a UAP campaign plan, as was previously discussed. The review board would have authority to recommend a national science addendum that could afford complete and timely access to knowledge gained in furtherance of open research and development essential to societal advancement and technological progress. The Rua, Zimbabwe daytime landing at the aerial school in 1994. I'm so glad that he mentions this. And also he talks about the 1966 Westall High School encounter in Melbourne, Australia. It's so nice that he's talking about these cases, because as far as anyone should be concerned, I mean, those cases should have proved it, should have informed everyone on this planet that we're not alone, because all these kids and these different incidents, and these are just two incidents that happen at schools, probably the most spectacular of all of them, right? But still, a lot of incidents have happened at schools where there were like hundreds of witnesses in a lot of cases, and these are two of the most amazing cases in the world, and there's no question that they happened. There's no way that all these people, little kids, made up stories like this, along with their teachers. In the Westall case, some of the teachers saw the objects too. Not in the Zimbabwe case. But anyway, let's get back to this. He says the Rua, Zimbabwe daytime landing at the aerial school in 1994 and the uncannily similar 1966 Westall High School daytime encounter in Melbourne, Australia are especially demonstrative. Aerial school students, now grown into adulthood, have recently been re-interviewed and continue to attest to the accuracy of their original testimony, as do the living Westall observers. A similar landing occurred the same year as the fall of the Berlin Wall in Voronezh Oblast within the Soviet Union. It too was witnessed by young children and was reported contemporaneously by the state-run media outlet TASS. Research by credentialed academics facilitated the federal grants in the natural sciences and social sciences, and medicine is needed to fully understand the true nature and ramifications of such encounters. We face a global challenge warranting international engagement through both diplomatic and Five Eyes intelligence channels, as most recently evidenced by repeated drone incursions over sensitive sites, both domestically and internationally. Review board-led policy development is crucial to enhancing existing agreements and expanding multilateral action with regard to this urgent topic. Consider as well alarming historical incidents such as the air traffic control recorded UFO flap over Washington, D.C., during two sequential weekends in 1952, which involved radar, visual, ground, and air tracking, as well as numerous failed air intercepts, sparked the largest press conference since World War II, and led to initiation of Project Blue Book, or the well-publicized encounter over Alaska in 1986, with a massive mothership by Captain Kenji Teruyuchi, pilot of Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628, all followed by contemporaneous denials analogous to official responses to the recent drone swarms. As much as these events concern individual states and their populations, it would be unwise for the United States or any other national government to believe the UFO problem can be assessed and definitively addressed without diplomatic cooperation. Now, I just want to stop there for a second. I think there is some diplomatic cooperation going on that we don't know about, actually. But I think it's between factions within governments, and maybe even some of the leaders in these governments don't even know what's going on between them. It needs to be more. We need to be more open about this. And then the sixth section here, he talks about the matter of eminent domain and why that's important. And then the recommendations. This is the best part here, I think. He says, Congress should take up and pass the UAP Disclosure Act in 2025, amended to include the following explicit compensatory process consistent with the foregoing analysis. Under the sole condition that any private sector person or entity who is the controlling authority of a technology of unknown origin cooperates fully with the intent of the Disclosure Act and the instructions of the Review Board. 1. The government shall award a grace period of specified finite duration during which there will be no immediate change to the disposition of the subject material. 2. The government shall reimburse the private sector person or entity for expenses incurred in the recovery, storage, and protection of the subject material, plus an appropriate finder's fee. What? Now, look at sounded out. Now, I'm not sure about some of these things, but this is what he's saying, just to get it over with, I guess. Paid him off. That's what he's saying. 3. The private sector person or entity shall retain ownership of all intellectual property created as a result of private examination of the subject material completed prior to the date of enactment of the Disclosure Act. 4. Upon voluntary application and approval, the private sector person or entity shall receive an appropriate grant to exclusively conduct foreign material exploitation or reverse engineering of the subject material during the grace period. 5. Any intellectual property resulting from work under this grant shall be co-owned with the government, and the private sector person or entity shall retain any applicable commercialization rights. 6. Upon conclusion of the grace period, the government shall make the subject material available to a competitively selected consortium formed in response to a fair and open competition for further scientific and technological investigation. So basically, what he's suggesting here is basically giving them all the breaks they could possibly dream of. That's what he's including in this Disclosure Act. He wants to add these things to it. Basically, giving the people who are maintaining this secret or keeping this secret, give them more breaks. Give them, if that's what it's going to take, I guess that's what it's going to take. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with this, but this is I think, what else are we going to do? I don't know. Anyway, continuing here. He closes it out this way. He says, according to the UAP Disclosure Act, all federal government records concerning unidentified anomalous phenomena should carry a presumption of immediate disclosure, and all records should be eventually disclosed, not later than the date that is 25 years after the date of the first creation of the record. So I guess they're going to drag it out over 25 years. That's what they're talking about doing. Since management of this process may theoretically court catastrophic consequences, for example, societal disruption, challenges to the legitimacy of existing authority structures, ontological shock, financial instability, false authority syndrome, and stagnation of initiative, the act puts in place a control structure much like what Presidents Truman or Eisenhower might have implemented had they been confronted, as is often alleged, with the same problem. However, proper oversight is ensured by the act by requiring that the president seek outside input for review board nominations, agree to open Senate confirmations, routinely publish unclassified progress reports in the Federal Register, provide written classified justifications for all postponements, develop a controlled disclosure plan, and annually brief the oversight committees of both chambers. Even if one believes that current Department of Defense efforts are effective, its arrow, designed to function at a middle management level in this formerly recalcitrant department, is inadequate and ill-suited to addressing the national strategic objectives for which the review board was conceived. Therefore, arrow and the review board are neither competitive nor redundant, but are in fact complementary. While no legislation is perfect, the UAP Disclosure Act is historic and holds the best promise of establishing proper federal oversight of anomalous phenomena, avoiding catastrophic disclosure through a controlled process, redressing potential misdeeds, preventing the loss of technological dominance, and reasserting the moral right of the American people to fully understand the world in which we live. Nevertheless, entrenched interests in the military-industrial complex appear aligned against the act, a telltale sign given that these same actors simultaneously claim the topic is vacuous. What harm accrues from a low-cost endeavor to assert proper oversight if there is no malfeasance? Senator Rounds and Schumer deserve high praise for their courageous and forward-looking stance in introducing this legislation. UFO disclosure is the only truly nonpartisan topic in the United States today, and every member of Congress should support its reintroduction in 2025 and vote yay. It is the right thing to do now and for posterity. So, I mean, it's very interesting. And you look at this guy's background. Not only was he in the military, right, but he was also an executive in the aerospace industry, held positions with Bell Laboratories, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. This guy, what an incredible background. Actually, it was really Jason Schertz of the YouTube channel Beyond Strangeness did a really good profile on him a couple years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. And I mean, this guy has an incredible background. When you have somebody like this telling you that this is real and that we need to have some sort of this Disclosure Act needs to get passed. We need to start moving forward with disclosures. The world needs to know that this is real. I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with everything that he says here, right? Because I'm more of a rip the Band-Aid off kind of guy. In fact, that's what I tried to do here. But there, of course, it's being suppressed. Hey, I'm all for it. I think we need to move forward. We need to get over this hump one way or the other. So I think this is good. We need to pass this UAP Disclosure Act. I think that's a step forward. But here's the thing. The one thing that you have to keep in mind that these creatures, whatever they don't follow. They're not going to follow any rules that we establish, right? We might have something that happens in the future at some point where. And who could happen today? Could happen tomorrow. Could happen next week. It could happen, a month from now, where something so incredible happens that there's no denying it. And it's catastrophic disclosure because all of a sudden everyone sees, oh my God, wow, they have been lying all these years, right? Something so big that it becomes, the mainstream media is forced to cover it. I mean, it's if we had another Phoenix Lights incident or another Stephenville, Texas incident, for instance, right? I mean, yeah, they could cover up some things, but they can't cover up something gigantic like that. Yeah, people could be out there saying, oh yeah, I don't believe the Vegas alien case, right? Even though anybody who looks at that knows that it's endgame, right? It's endgame. There's no doubt about it. We actually not only do we have the creatures, right? We have them, and it's verified. It's all authenticated, but I'm not sure where that's going to go. I mean, we could keep talking about it, but they're talking about something else. They're talking about a slow disclosure over the period of time, where you're giving the people in the shadows here time to, bring the stuff forward. And I guess, and the other thing is too, it would get them off the hook. That Disclosure Act, in its original form, right? I'm sure that would be part of this. I mean, they would have a period of time. There would be a grace period for them to act without facing any sort of repercussions, criminal repercussions, anything of that matter. So I don't know. I guess I'm okay. I think we have to do something, right? And I'm glad that there's people like this who are doing something. Obviously, there are people in this secret control group that are still fighting against this, and they don't want the world to know about this, and they want to keep studying these things and reverse engineering them without anybody knowing about it. That's what they want. They don't want no interaction from the government. They don't want the public to know what they're doing. They just want the whole thing to stay secret, and they don't want to ever be exposed. But we got to end this. You can't keep something like this secret anymore. It's not a secret, actually. The truth is actually right out there right now. But the problem is, you have people there's just a gigantic number of people out there who just pretend it's not real. That's we're fighting against. Basically, in one respect, I believe we're fighting against like a lie, a big giant lie. Right? That's what we're fighting against. Like, there's all these people who pretend that there's no proof, there's not enough evidence, nothing. There's no way any of this is real. We have all those people, right? But yeah, there's all these other. I mean, look at the Ariel School, the Westall School. I mean, how many cases are we going to talk about here? How many individual encounter cases have we talked? You ever watch Preston Dennett on all the different stuff he's talking about, all the different people, all the different cases, every single week that he's talking about that over that span decades? It's just for some reason we're not accepting this reality. It's like I feel like the character in Invasion of the Body Snatchers when he was running around at the end saying they're already here, right? That's what it feels like for some of us, because it's like, don't you see this? Like, it's like I think about that time with I guess I was in my early 20s, and my brother. I talked about this before. I'm sure I mentioned it. I was in the car with my brother Davey. He was driving, and we were driving into Pottsville, Pennsylvania, going down this hill toward a red light. And the speed limit was like 40 or 45, and he was going like 55, 60. So he was going over the speed limit. I don't know what it was, but I was like, slow down. There's a red light coming up. And he didn't slow down right away. So then finally there's a red light there, and there's a tractor trailer parked at the red light there, waiting for it to turn green. And my brother finally started hitting the brakes, and he came like this close, like within an inch. I'm literally within an inch of hitting in the back of that tractor trailer. The guy who was driving the truck actually got out of the truck and walked over to my brother, and he looked at the back of the truck. He looked at my brother, and he goes, "Don't you see this?" And then he just got back in his truck, and then he drove away, and that was it. And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It's like there's all this evidence, and where's the scientific community? You have a couple of people talking about it, but where's the rest of them? You have people like Avi Loeb and Gary Nolan. Where's everyone else? And why are all these people on the internet saying that there's nothing true? You don't have proof. You don't have proof. You don't have proof. Well, I mean, what's going on here? It's like people are being lied to. There's like this. I don't know. I don't know what to call it. Like, what else do they need? I mean, what did they expect? I don't know what they're expecting. I think maybe they have something in their mind on how it should be. Maybe they think it's like E.T. the extraterrestrial walking out of the shed or something. That's what they expect to happen. I don't know. What do they expect? I just can't believe we're just in this place still. It's hard to believe, actually. After all, when you research this and you see all of the different cases, and you have people like Carl Nell telling you this stuff, and yet, where's the mainstream news? Like, how come they don't take it as seriously? How come it's always with a chuckle and a laugh? The UFOs again. Like, what's going on here? Why was everyone so stupid when it comes to this? And who are these stupid people? What is wrong with all of these people online that pretend that this isn't real? Like, what's their game? What is this all about? What's going on? I don't know. Yeah, we act so stupid, and a whole bunch of people fall for the lies all the time, too, on top of it. I just don't know what's going on here. I don't get it. I just can't imagine. I just don't understand how the human race could just be this stupid when it comes to this subject for some reason. But they are. I mean, it goes back to what when I first started the show, where Jason Wilde, talking about, so it doesn't matter. You could show people that they won't accept it. It's just bouncing off their brains. I don't know. It's very, very frustrating sometimes. This should have just. I be quite honest with you, right? I would rather, of course, Band-Aid pull off, and I think that's it's already been done. But it's of course, it's being suppressed. But what are you going to do? But at the same time, we got to do something. Carl Nell has an idea here, and it's a great paper. I ask people, hey, check it out when you have the time if you're interested in this thing. I think this guy's laying it all out there. This is what we could do. How about this one? Let's try this one. Let's get it passed this year. We need to do something. I guess this is the way that a lot of people on top want to do it, and maybe that's what we have to do then. Not that I agree with everything about it, but at the same time, we got to do something. The world can't. We just can't. The whole human race just can't continue to be this stupid for much longer. I mean, why would you want to? Why would you want to be so stupid? I don't get it. Anyway, I'm rambling now, so I'm going to cut it off here. I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me today. Until next time.